Good morning, everybody, and hello from Alan Dalzell. I am the CEO of a skills company called Pipeline, and this is my skills masterclass. In the next 45 minutes or so, what I'm going to do is introduce you to an application that we developed on Microsoft Teams called SkillMe, and I'm going to show you how SkillMe as an application can accelerate the development of the skills of your people. And in so doing, essentially what I'm also doing is showing you how Microsoft Teams is becoming just the platform of choice, a great platform for developing the skills of your employees. Now, I have four main goals for the session, The first goal I have for the session is I want to show you how the SkillMe application enables your employees to take charge of their own skill development journeys. And in so doing, what I want to show you is how we can help you improve the experience that your employees have associated with their development. Because development is becoming such an important aspect of what really drives and improves the overall experience that your employees have of working in your companies. So that's the first goal I have. The second goal I have associated with that is how managers can contribute, how managers can become part of the process, how a manager can actually help facilitate, help coach, model and care skill development that their employees, that their team members are driving. So the role of the manager is critical. And I want to show you how the manager participates in the process. That's the second goal I have. The third goal I have is to put all of this in the context of something that we refer to as having a growth mindset. Not a fixed mindset, but having a growth mindset. And I want to show you how SkillMe actually enables your employees to develop a growth mindset. It's skills tech, it's technology that enables growth mindset and a change in perhaps the culture of your business, the culture of your employees associated with not being fixed, but having this growth mindset. And then finally, what I want to do, my final goal, my fourth goal, is to show you how using the application sets your employees up to have the most effective learning and growing discussions with their managers. How it sets them up to be as effective as they possibly can be. And these really important, conversations that perhaps happen once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. In some cases, they're aligned to, their performance discussion with their managers, but it's not about performance. It's not about performance, it's about development. And what I want to do is show you how the SkillMe application sets your employees up to have the very best development conversation, learn and grow conversation with their managers. Whatever your rhythm is for them doing that, I want to show you how it sets them up to have the most effective conversation. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my desktop here. And share my desktop and introduce you to the SkillMe app. Here it is. SkillMe runs in Microsoft Teams. It's available from the Microsoft Teams App Store. You can see on the left-hand side here, I have the Teams menu running. Just make sure I go into the right perspective. Here we are. I have the Microsoft Teams menu running on the left-hand side there. You can see that I've set up in a particular channel here. Skills by Pipeline is the name of my channel. But you can put this application into any channel you want. It could be in a central employee readiness, employee development channel on Teams. It could be within a role excellence channel within Teams. It could be within a particular manager's team channel within Teams. You can set it up to be located anywhere. It can be on any tab in any channel. And when your team members, when your employees go into the application, this is what they see. This is what they see. This is services for them. What you're seeing on the screen here is what we refer to as a skills board. A skills board. And a skills board is based upon skill profiles that we build, we help you build, or you can build these for yourself using our application for every single role in your company. You can build a skills profile. And a skills profile is based upon the skills that truly drive success in all of your roles across your company. What are those top 15, 20, 25 skills that truly drive success in role? Those skills are created in something that we refer to as a skills profile. And then we upload those skill profiles into our application, and they surface as a skills board for your roles across the company. And when your employees come into the application, their particular skills board that's based upon their skills profile is automatically shows up for them. In this example, you can see in the top left-hand part of my screen here is that I am showing off the sales leader skills profile. The sales leader skills profile. I have 4 skill categories across the top, from strategic planning, relationship building, execution excellence through to growth mindset. These are my skill categories. And then within the skill categories, I have the 15 or 20 individual skills themselves. These tiles represent the skills that drive success in role for a sales leader. Now, when you first come into the application, one of your employees comes into the application looks a little bit different. It looks like this. It's what I refer to as the vanilla view. All of these tiles, these skills are white. And the reason why they're like this, they look like this, is because we haven't activated them yet. We've not done anything to activate these skills such that the skills board, once it's activated, can actually start to be of value to me as an employee, to me as a team member within a team. It can start to guide me. It can start to help me prioritize the skills that I should be focusing on. It kind of guides me in terms of what are the right resources that I can be accessing, the people that I could be reaching out to who could potentially act as experts to help mentor me. We haven't activated it yet. Now, the way that we do this is that we go into top left-hand part of the screen here. You see I have 3 menu options: skills board, which is what I'm currently on, reports, which I'll come to towards the end of the presentation, and perspectives. And so to activate our skills board, what we do is we complete our perspective of the work that we're doing against each one of these skills. So it's an opportunity for us to kind of reflect on the work that we're doing against something that's really, really important to me in my role. And that thing is my hypotheses, if you like, of what drives excellence in role. These skills that really drive success for me in the role. Where am I in terms of my journey towards mastering all of these skills, towards mastery for all of these important skills? Where am I? So just before I jump into perspective, let's just kind of summarize where we are. I've introduced you to the SkillMe application. I've shown you how the SkillMe application sits in Microsoft Teams. I've introduced this concept of the skills board that's based upon this thing called a skills profile that represents the top skills that really drive success in a role. And I've talked about how we start to activate the skills board so it adds value to us by going into perspectives, which is what I'm going to do next. So let's jump into perspectives. I'm going to go into perspectives here. Click on perspectives. And completing perspectives is a really simple process. Perspectives might be a word that's familiar or not to people. You might think of perspectives as being another word that perhaps describes perspectives as feedback. You know, you're completing your own feedback on the work that you're doing against each one of these skills. We refer to this process as perspectives. You know, you're completing your perspectives on the work you're doing against each one of these skills. And it's really simple. You click on the first skill and a little dialog box pops up. And the dialog box enables you to answer 3 important questions associated with each one of these skills to help you kind of create a baseline of where you feel like you are relative to mastering each one of these important skills. The first question is, how important is this skill to you? And importance is always within context of the time frame around which I'm planning. Now, that time frame could be from your last learn and grow discussion with your manager. I'll refer to it as a connect with your manager. Connect discussion where you talk about your learn and grow plan, your skill development plan, all the way through to the next one, all the way through to the next time that you meet with your manager and you talk about your development plan, your learn and grow plan. We kind of review where you are, how you're doing, how things are going. Perhaps you do that with your manager 2 or 3 times a year. And the cycle around which we are planning here is from this last connect through to the next one, through to the next one. And so I'm going to say in this time frame, how important is this skill going to be to me, on the basis that not all skills are going to be equally important to me at the same time. At the same time. So I'm going to say in this case, sales strategy, I'm a sales leader, building out my sales strategy is the beginning of the year. This is a really important activity for me. So I'm going to say the importance level for this, developing sales strategy and having the skills to do this, is absolutely critical. Now, what's my frequency associated with executing the methods, the practices, the processes that sit behind building out a great sales strategy? When I'm building out my sales strategies, and I generally probably would strategize perhaps once a year, updating maybe on a quarterly basis or maybe even on a monthly basis. But when I go about doing this, how frequently do I execute the methods, the practices, the processes that sit behind building out a great sales strategy? Do I sometimes just execute those methods, or am I always doing it? I'm always executing the methods because I'm looking to learn. I'm looking to try new things. I'm looking to evolve, to grow, to try to improve and grow, try, improve and grow. I'm always executing. I'm always executing the methods, the practices, and the processes that sit behind this skill because I'm always looking to improve and grow the work that I'm doing with this skill. And this is, for me, where this thing called having a growth mindset lives, in the frequency space. It's where it lives. I don't have a fixed mindset, I have a growth mindset, which means I'm always trialing new things. I'm always looking to improve. I'm always looking to grow. So I'm always on. And so, where am I in terms of executing against these practices, these methods? I'm going to say I often do it. And what's my proficiency? What's proficiency? Proficiency is like my IQ. It's like the knowledge, Am I certified in this particular skill? Do I have the knowledge that I need to have to execute this skill? Do people reach out to me and ask me to act as a mentor to them, an expert, someone that can actually model the behaviors, the methods, the practices associated with this skill? Does that happen on a regular basis? Where am I? Am I at the intermediate level, or am I just kind of starting out, or really am I truly an expert in this particular skill? And I'm going to say I'm at the intermediate level. Now, my view is, in order to gauge where you are in terms of your journey towards mastering a skill, it takes 2 to tango here, 2 to tango. It's both frequency of executing the practices, the methods, and its proficiency. It's only when these 2 things are at the very highest level, at the very highest levels they can be at. Frequency is always, proficiency is I've reached that expert level in terms of my knowledge. So only when you're at the very highest level can you truly say that you've mastered a skill. When you do so, what happens based upon the levels that you've assigned, a color gets assigned to this particular skill. And I'm going to talk about what the colors mean in a second. But essentially, perspectives is all about going through for each skill, answering these 3 important questions. How important is it to me? What's my level of frequency? What's my level of proficiency? And you're moving through completing this for each and every skill. Just by clicking on the right arrow, the red arrow here, you're just moving through completing your perspectives. And when you've done that, what happens in the application, the Skill Me application, is your skills board will look like this. Your skills board will look like this. Now, I completed my perspective for this role, this as if I was the sales leader last night. It took about 10 to 15 minutes to do it. So it's not a lengthy process. You need to do it with a very high level of authenticity. You have to be real about your answers. But once you've done it, your skills board will be created. Now, colors tell you the story of where you are in your journey towards mastering each and every one of these important skills for your role, because red skills are skills that, based upon your perspective, you should stop investing any time in terms of your skill development. Red, they're just not going to be important to you at this time, in this period. Then that might change. These skills might come back round at some later point, but right now, through this next period, red skills are skills that aren't going to be important to you. Amber skills are emerging skills. They're the new skills. They're skills that you know will become more important to you in this time frame. When we think about developing a growth mindset, you know, one of the tenets is we're willing to learn new things. There's a willingness to learn new things. Well, what are these new things? Well, the new things, in the context of your role and growing in your role, the new things are these amber skills. These amber skills. These are the new skills. But green skills are the most important skills to focus on. That's where your most intensive skill development efforts go into, developing green skills. Why? Because the gap between where you are, based upon your perspective, your frequency, your proficiency perspective, the gap between where you are and mastering these skills is at its greatest. The gap is at its greatest with green skills. So this is where you need to focus most of your skilling time. Violet skills are skills that you are close to mastering. The way I think about it is that it's that final sprint. You know, it's that final sprint to the finish line, and we've mastered one of these skills. And when we master a skill in the Skill Me application, what happens is we go purple with the skill. It means that we're doing our best work. Our frequency levels are at the highest they can be. Our proficiency levels are at the highest they can be. We've mastered the skill. But when we've mastered a skill in the Skill Me application, something very important happens, because we are now ready to model these skills, for others, for other people across our community. And one of the lessons that we've learned over the years of doing a lot of skill development work is that if we can really accelerate across our community the ability for us to bring together people who have mastered skills with people who, for them, these are skills they're looking to develop. We bring together purple and green, we bring together purple and amber, we bring people together at scale across our communities. We know that if we can do this, we can have a big impact upon the performance of the business. And this is why we do this. This is why we do this, because we know we can have a big impact upon the performance of the business. Now, at a team member level, at an individual level, the real reason why I go through the perspectives process, I have to do it, you know, once, and then thereafter I'm kind of updating it perhaps on a, you know, once or twice or 3 times a year basis. The real reason why we do this is so that I can do this, because what I can now do is I can pick up these green skills, look, and I can drag those green skills across, and I can put these green skills into my priorities column over here on the left-hand side, over on the left-hand side. I'm going to move 2 greens for this next period. I'm going to move 2 greens. I'm going to move willingness to learn something new, an amber skill. And I'm also going to move 1 skill that I know that I'm close to mastering, that I know in this next period I want to master the practices, the methods associated with this skill. And I'm going to pop that one into my priorities column as well. So what I've now done is I've started to do something that for every sales leader, in my experience, is one of the most difficult things for them to do, which is to prioritize their skill development, time and focus. And these are the 4 things that I'm going to focus on developing through this next period. I prioritize them. And completing perspectives has helped me to do this. Now, at the very same time that I'm doing this, I'm just going to switch gears for a second here. And I'm going to go into a different view. And this is really where the magic happens. It's where the magic happens, because the view that I'm in now is the view of the sales leader's manager. Perhaps they're the sales director. And the sales director has gone through exactly the same process that the sales leader has gone through. They have completed their perspective of the work that they feel like this sales leader is doing against each one of these important skills that drive success in role. The sales director has completed their perspective. And you can see here in this case, this sales director has 4 sales leaders that work for him or for her. 4 of them. In this case, they've completed perspectives for Christy, one of the sales leaders. Now, when I refresh the sales leader view, I'm just going to refresh their view here. What you will see happening here is that those very 4 priorities that the sales leader moved across into their priorities column for this next period, those skill priorities appear now for the sales director. The sales director can see those priorities, the skills that the sales leader has, skills they've prioritized for the next period. They're right there. There they are, all 4 of them. And of course, the sales director can look at these skills that the sales leader is prioritizing and say, you know what, I think these are right for you for this next period. But I also think that there's another skill that I would move across and I would put into your priorities column. So the sales director, you can see, look, there's a little notation on that skill they've moved across. It says suggested by you, suggested by you, suggested by the sales director. As an additional skill, they feel like the sales leader should be thinking about prioritizing through this next period. And when I come back to now the sales leader's view, and I refresh their skills board, you will notice that additional skill that the sales director has suggested now appears in their list of priorities right here, look, on the left-hand side. And there's even a notation in that skill that they're suggesting. It says suggested by George, who in this case would be the sales director for the sales leader. So this skill perspectives process with these different perspectives, the sales leader, the sales director's perspective, this prioritization work that we've gone through, driven by the sales leader, because they're in control, they're in charge of their skill development journey and what they're prioritizing through the next period. All of this can be done completely remotely. We don't need to be in the office anymore. We don't need to be sitting around that table anymore. It could be done between a sales manager and an account executive who might be working remotely on completely different time zones in completely different parts of the world. All of this work can be done remotely, so that we start to get into the modality of really thinking together about what are the skill priorities that I want to focus on for this next period, and I want technology to help me do it. And in actual fact, all of this is being done in Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams. So if you think about, coming back to growth mindset, if you think about what we're actually doing here, is that we are now setting and taking ownership for our skill development priorities, our growth priorities, which is another tenet, an important tenet of developing a growth mindset. We've talked about willingness to learn new things. We're now talking about setting and taking ownership for your own growth priorities. This is exactly what we're doing here. And as we do this, in actual fact, what we're doing is setting ourselves up for that connect conversation that might be forthcoming with our manager, because we now know what we're going to be talking about in that discussion. We know the what, because we don't want to go into that discussion and spend most of that discussion talking about the what. We want to go into that discussion and talk about the how we're going to accelerate our skill development, not talk about the what. And so here we've done all of that work up front to define the what. So by way of summary, what I've done here is I've introduced you to this concept of perspectives. I've shown you how individual team members complete their perspectives. I've shown you how, through the process of completing perspectives, it helps team members to prioritize the skills that they're going to focus on through this next period. I've shown you how managers can go through exactly the same process, how managers see those skill priorities appear in their priorities column for each of their team members, and how managers can actually contribute to the process by moving skills across and suggesting additional skills that they think might be important to their team members. And then when you come back into that team member view, you can see those suggestions that are being made by the manager, and the team member can either decide to accept those suggestions, or maybe they won't. Maybe they think, you know what, I think that I'm in a good position with these skill priorities that I've defined for myself. Why? Because they are in the driving seat of their own skill development journey. Now, what's next? Once I've defined my skill priorities, once I've defined my skill priorities, guess what you can do here? You can click on these skills. Look, I'm just going to click on a skill. And when you click on a skill and you open up a dialog box associated with the skill, there's now insight and information and some features that we've added into the skill dialog box that actually help accelerate skill development. So this is not just about completing perspectives. It's not just about prioritizing. It's actually about helping to accelerate skill development. Now, how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we do is that we show up for each team member, for each employee, their perspective of the work they're doing against each one of these skills they've prioritized alongside their manager's view. And the reason why we do that is because we think that it's really important that managers and team members get aligned around where they are, where each of their team members are relative to these skills that they prioritize in their journey towards mastering the skills. Where are we? Let's get aligned around where, let's sync up on where we are, because if we don't get aligned, if we don't get synced up, frustrations can start to develop. And over time, these frustrations across team members, across employees lead to our attrition rates going up. We don't want that. So let's provide some insight based upon perspectives that will be completed by the team member, by the manager, serve those up so that they kind of know together where they are. Now, a team member can listen to the point of view of the manager in a one-on-one that might be kind of coming up mid-cycle. And the manager might give their perspective just against these skills that have been prioritized. And if the team member takes on board what the manager is saying, they can choose to sync their view with the manager's view. And you'll notice when they sync their view that the color associated with this skill changes both around the skill and on the skill and the priorities column. It changes. They can choose to sync. And it works both ways, by the way. A manager could choose to sync their view with what they've heard from the team member, and the team member can choose to sync their view what they've heard from the manager. It can work both ways. What's important here is that we get synced. We get synced up together. Now, we might decide that, we're going to remain out of sync, remain unsynced, because, maybe the team member listened to the manager, and maybe they said, well, you know what, you're doing a lot, you've got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm really not quite certain you've got the complete perspective of the work I'm doing. So right now I'm gonna keep it as it is because I'm in charge of my own skill development journey. So we now have two goals. The first goal is to find a way that we can get more aligned together. And the second goal is we want to accelerate our skill, the development of this particular skill. How do we do it? The first thing that we have here is what we refer to as experiences. I can click on experiences and a little dialog box pops up, and you will notice in this dialog box there are a list of experiences. What's an experience? An experience is an activity that we think, a manager thinks, or a team member thinks can really help them accelerate the development of a particular skill that they're prioritizing. So an example of an experience might be attend an event, participate on a panel at an event. It might be participate in a pod, in a project group, become part of that project group that's going on in an area that's really important to you, whereby developing these skills is going to be really important. Or maybe it's about shadowing someone from the engineering part of the organization, or from the product or marketing part of the organization, or maybe it's even working in a particular part of the customer's business to learn more about the customer's business. Experiences can be added by individual team members, and then experiences can be added by managers. And the beauty of experiences is that these are the things that we do on the job. On the job. These are the things that happen on the job. And we know that on-the-job experiences accelerate skill development more than anything else. So the more experiences, the more of the right experiences that we can add in here, the faster we can accelerate our skill development. And the other thing that's important about experiences, the experiences enable managers and team members to get more aligned around the work that that team member is doing relative to these skills that they've prioritized. So these are experiences. The second thing that's happening here is access to experts. Remember I said we bring together people who have mastered skills with people who, for them, these are green skills they're looking to develop or new skills they're looking to develop. Well, this is an example. Martin and Cecilia are both experts in this skill, and the application has surfaced Martin and Cecilia as experts that in this case, the sales leader can reach out to, who've already put their hand up to say they are willing to mentor people from across the community. They're willing to mentor sales leaders from across the community in these skills that they've mastered. And Martin and Cecilia are right there. And they can click on either one of them and they can create this mentor-mentee relationship right there in Microsoft Teams. Goes through into the chat and they can start that conversation right there in Teams. And of course, managers could add experts. They might become familiar with experts from across the company. They could add experts and they would appear in the list for this sales leader. And the sales leader themselves might be aware of an expert that they want to add to the list. And this list gets created and they start to develop these mentor relationships. And guess what? One of the ways that managers can get more aligned with the work that their people are doing is by reaching out to these experts and saying, hey, how's it been going with my sales leader? Tell me more about the work you've been doing, so they can learn more about what they've done so they can get more aligned together. Experts. And we know that experts can really help drive and accelerate skill development. All right, finally, resources. We'll talk about resources. We've got a list of resources here. We've done something really unique, I think, with these resources. These are the resources that you would expect. These come from the learning and readiness, from the LMS. They come from SharePoint sites around the organization. And what we do is we pull these resources in and we provide these resources as a list of resources that users can explore and help them develop what? Develop these skills that they've prioritized. Not all of the skills on their skills board, but these skills they are prioritizing for the next period. These are the very best resources from across the company that can help them. They don't have to worry about trying to find the very best resources. They appear right here in this list. We do the work in the background. Our AI engine goes outside of the company, looks for the best resources and brings those resources in, and they would be added to the list. Managers can also suggest resources. Local managers in the field can suggest resources. Local team members could add resources they think might be appropriate for their team members, and they get added to the list as well. So everybody starts to contribute to the resources that they think are going to be most helpful for what? The skills that have been prioritized by the team member, in this case, the sales leader. So we really, really hone in on the resources that we think are going to be most helpful to accelerate skill development. So experiences, reaching out to experts and reaching out to the right resources are all available when you click on a skill that you prioritize to help you accelerate your skill development. Now, you might be looking at the list of skills on this skills board. You might just be looking at them and you might be saying to yourself, you know what, Alan, these skills look great for a sales leader, but I think there's some skills that are missing. You know, maybe there are some soft skills, maybe there are some professional skills, maybe there are some kind of, nuances locally across a global organization that we think, should be added onto someone's skills board. And of course, when you see this little plus sign here, this little red circle with a plus sign on there at the bottom of each skill category, or in actual fact, over to the right-hand side, you could actually add a unique category. It means that you can add skills. So those professional skills, those soft skills could all be added. A manager could suggest skills, and those skills then that they would suggest would then appear on the skills board for their team members, which means that we can completely personalize skills boards for every single employee across your organization. Completely personalize them, because everybody's different. Everybody's at different stages. Everybody's aspirations are unique to them. And this is how we support those unique aspirations that your people have. And this is how we drive up people's experiences that they have in the organization from a developmental point of view. And of course, at the very same time that we're doing this, we're adding these skills, and we can see that these skills are being added. We can take a view of these skills that are being added onto the skills board for a role, and we can say, hey, look, maybe what we should do is we should add these skills for everybody. So it means that everybody is now participating in developing the very best skills profile for every role in your company. Every employee is contributing to that. So you can build skills profiles that really do drive the development of your people and put you in a competitive position relative to your competition, and differentiate competitive visions through skill development versus your competitors. Also, and importantly, whenever your team members, your employees move these skills across that they want to prioritize, guess what happens? You see the skills that they are prioritizing. The learning and readiness organization sees the skills that are being prioritized in this next period across the community. And guess what that means they can do? By knowing the skills that are being prioritized by people in the field, it means that you can target the very best possible learning and readiness activities and investments for this period against the things that you know are most important for people in the field. So it really gives learning and readiness sales enablement a leg up. It gives you the insights that you need to make sure you're focusing on the right things. So just by way of summary, what I've done in this segment is I've double-clicked on one of these skills that we've prioritized, and I've shown you when we double-click on it, some of the capabilities inherent within the skill itself. The ability to see the insight that enables us to get aligned, to sync up with our managers, between managers and team members. Seeing how you can create experiences, on-the-job experiences that can accelerate development, how you can connect with experts, you can accelerate development, how you can reach out to the right resources, explore the right resources, the resources that have been aligned to these skills that you've prioritized. All of these things accelerate development. How you can add and personalize your skills board by adding skills, professional skills, soft skills that might be appropriate to a particular employee in a particular part of the business. Maybe skills that will help them as they aspire to doing what's next for them. Okay, what's next? What's next? A couple of things I want to do is I just want to show you what we refer to as safe zone. Because whilst we can make sure that we personalize skills boards, we can also ensure that we enable your employees to kind of personalize, who they share their data with. They can make decisions about data sharing, data privacy that are right for them. This is what we call safe zone. So here in safe zone, what a team member can do, an employee can do, is choose to share their perspective data with their manager or not. If they want to share their data with their manager so that they can get that feedback, that important feedback. Part of having a growth mindset is open to feedback, getting their feedback through from the manager. They can choose to share their data with their manager or not. And by the way, they will see their manager's perspective data. That will flow through to them. But if they choose not to share their data, the manager won't see their perspective data because they're in control of their data. They can choose to share their data with mentors so that mentors can see the skills that they're looking to develop, and mentors will then reach out to them, actively reach out to them and ask them if they are looking for help and assistance. Share with mentors, yes or no. And then finally, they can choose to share their data only anonymously, though, with support teams like the sales enablement team, like the learning and readiness team, like the role excellence team. When we aggregate that data up, and we only aggregate the data up, and it's only anonymous data. We never share names, we never share email addresses, we never share any private information with anybody. Only share anonymous data for the purpose of aggregating up so that these parts of the organization, these teams across the organization can make smart decisions about the investments that they make to help. Safe zone. And then finally, I just wanted to click on mentors here. I wanted to show you how mentors work. So I want to show you how mentors work. There's a little dialog box that pops up. And what happens in the mentors dialog, just a quick example here, is that these are the skills. These are skills that this sales leader is either mastered or they're close to mastering. And what they can choose to do here, they can choose to say whether or not they want to mentor, members of the team, or they might want to mentor people from across the community. And when they choose either to become a mentor for their team or members of the community, those people across the community who for them, this is a developmental skill will show up here in this table. I'll show up here in this table, and just being a little bit authentic here, I didn't set this up as I should have set it up. So you're not seeing pictures of people, you're not seeing their names. It should have appeared here. And I'm sorry that it didn't. But hopefully you get the gist of how this works. In mentors, you can choose for those skills that you've mastered to either mentor your team or mentor members across the community. When you do that, those people who for them this is developmental skill will show up, and you can reach out to them right from here and kick off, activate that mentor-mentee relationship. All right, well, I've shown you an awful lot in 45 minutes. I've introduced you to our Skill Me application and skills board, and how skills boards are based upon skill profiles and how you complete perspectives. Perspectives help team members, employees to prioritize the skills they're going to be working on and set them up to have the most effective learn and grow, connect conversations with their managers that they might have 2 or 3 times a year. I've shown you how you can click on a skill that you prioritize. And when you click on a skill, the dialog box pops up and there's information that helps managers and team members get aligned around where a team member is relative to their journey towards mastering skills, and how you can add experiences, connect with experts, explore resources that are the most helpful things to really help accelerate skill development at scale across your teams, across your community, which truly can drive business performance. And I've also shown you how your employees are in control. They're in control of their skills boards. They can personalize their skills boards to make their skills board right with them, so they have exactly the right skills that are going to be most relevant for them. And also how they can take charge of who they share their data with, sharing the data with the manager, sharing the data with mentors, sharing the data with, and not only anonymously, with some of the support and help teams across the organization, like sales enablement, learning readiness, etc. This is Skill Me, the #1 skills application for Microsoft Teams. We'd be delighted to show you how this application could help you and the specific needs of your organization. And really all that's left for me to say is to thank you for attending this masterclass. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it insightful. And if you do want to follow up, please send me an email, alan@pipeline.com, alan@pipeline.com. And I'd be delighted to speak to you on an individual basis about how we could help you. Thank you very much indeed for attending today's Skills Masterclass. Thank you very much.